Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Hummingbird version 3.1 race spec. This is an analog 65mm whoop designed specifically for racing. So if you are a newer pilot, it's probably best to look at the non-race spec version of the Hummingbird. This one is very much aimed at serious racing only. So it has a high camera angle that can only be adjusted to higher than this, with 5 different positions on a TPU mount. The motors have a high KV of 30,000, favouring performance over flight time. The built-in analog VTX is tuned to be an accurate 25 milliwatts to ensure that you are not accidentally breaking race whoop rules. And it only weighs in at 16.5 grams without a battery, again favouring performance over durability. They do sell the frame as a spare part, and I definitely recommend picking up a spare. From my experience, fast, lightweight whoops do break, especially when crashing into hard surfaces over and over again. And while these all-in-one boards are great for convenience and weight saving, they can be quite delicate when it comes to a crash, especially at speed. It could really do with a plate or brace to stop the camera from smashing into the board in a crash. The soldering on the motor pads is extremely miniature, even for someone like me who has spent quite a lot of time building micros. So repairing this in a crash or replacing the board is definitely going to be fiddly. The battery connector is an A30 compatible with BT2, and they recommend a 300 mAh battery. The receiver is a 2.4 GHz Express LRS SPI receiver built into the board, which again is great for convenience and weight saving, but it means that the version of Express LRS is baked into Betaflight itself, and that's currently on version 3 for Express LRS, and the Betaflight that has come with this is flashed with version 4.5 CAC edition. So with all of the specific settings that this comes with, it may end up being quite a challenge to update if a new version of Express LRS comes out that's no longer compatible. However, if you are a seasoned racer and you are aware of the specific settings that the CAC firmware gives you, then updating and setting stuff up probably isn't a big deal to you. Anyway, it's just that this quad comes set up ready out of the box to just bind and fly. One benefit to an SPI receiver is that you can enter your bind phrase directly into Betaflight, and it bounds straight away to my GX12 radio. Just be aware that it won't bind to any of the full resolution packet rates. I'm going to be using my now ancient Fat Shark HDO2s with a rapid fire receiver, a Menace periscope antenna, along with a Bandicoot patch antenna, specifically designed to work with linear antenna setups. Straight away it becomes obvious that this model is very fast. I tried flying it in my house, but it's not big enough for this camera angle. So I took it to the local indoor flying club, where it definitely turns some heads. I'm flying acro mode here, which is all you can really do, as the camera angle is too high for angle or horizon mode, which it does come set up with out of the box. However, I found that there is a slight drift to the left in angle mode, possibly caused by a bit of noise making it through to the flight controller. I did calibrate the accelerometer a couple of times, but it made no difference. There's no drift in horizon or acro mode anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You need to be a really experienced pilot to get the most out of this model. I'm not a racer, and it was getting to the limit of my capability. The motors are incredibly smooth. Tiny whoops often rattle along while you are flying, but that is not the case with this one. And in this sports hall, I was barely able to go over 60% throttle with little blips of 80 to 100%. So it's got even more to give than I can show here. I can't see a tiny whoop needing this much power unless you are flying in an arena or outside. When I tried to fly around the house, I did find myself wishing the camera had a larger field of view. And it's not the sharpest analog feed either. There seems to be a sheen over the top of everything, but it's good enough for this kind of usage. With it only having a 25 milliwatt transmitter, you aren't going to get the best range, but again, fine for a tiny whoop race. The BT2 connector is definitely allowing enough current for the power that this model has. I did lower the battery warning to 3 volts in beta flight, otherwise it prompts you to land pretty quickly into the flight. You will kill batteries doing this, but I imagine tiny whoop racers won't care. I did have trouble changing the VTX channel through the on-screen display. It seemed like it did a mini failsafe on the control signal every time I tried to change it, and it would default to a specific channel. It worked after a few tries, but it's something I would find frustrating, especially at a race event, or indeed here, where there were lots of people flying analog on different channels. As for the tune, I did notice a couple of wobbles, especially in really tight turns. I think this is simply down to the extreme power this model had for a whoop. Now, I was flying as fast as I could here, and each time I got just under a 3-minute flight time, so I think you'll get a little bit more than that. As I say, I was 50% throttle most of the time in this flight. Overall, I did really enjoy flying the Hummingbird, but buyer beware, experienced pilots only. Thanks for watching. Cheers.